Thank you, friend, for joining me today. Thank you so much for your prayers and support for this ministry. It is June 11, 2025. Grateful for your prayers, for your support, for the trust and encouragement. I would like to share this moment with you to analyze and try to investigate and exercise our righteous speculation with these articles from Truth Seeker Church and also from Spectrum magazine. It is entitled "The God of the General Conference Arrives." We know what happened in 1980, and 1980 was the change of the religion of the Seventh-day Adventist from the non-Trinitarian fundamental principles to now the Trinitarian fundamental beliefs. And the accusation is that the pioneers lack the truth. In other words, they were in error. That's why the present General Conference Corporation of the Seventh Adventist Church has to change the religion. The 2025 General Conference session will be held in St. Louis, Missouri. The Gateway Ark sits along the Mississippi River in St. Louis, Missouri, United States of America. It was designed by Finnish-born American architect Eero Saarinen in 1948 and was constructed between 1963 and 1965. It gets its name from the westward expansion of new settlers in the 19th century as the city's role as the gateway to the West. This monument commemorates the Louisiana Purchase in 1803 from France, doubling the country's size. It opened up the exploration of the West by the military led by Captain Meriwether Lewis and Lieutenant William Clark. The strong, elegant shape of the ark represents somewhat of a doorway to the western part of the country. The ark is 630 feet, 192 meters tall, and the distance between its legs is equal to its height. Inside are two trams, each of which consist of 8 cars that each carry up to 5 seated people at a time. Visitors can take a 4-minute tram ride to the viewing platform at the top of the ark. 16 windows face east, and the same number faced west for views of the city, river, and surrounding land. At the base of the ark underground is the Museum of Westward Expansion, which features displays showing what life was like in the 1800s, as well as exhibits on the construction of the ark, as well as a short film in the movie theater. When it comes to religion and worshiping a god or deity, the ark shape can be found abundantly in pagan temples, often connected with the worship of Baal, a false god. The General Conference Corporation of Seventh-day Adventists, reorganized in 1904, chose in 1980 a different god than what was the foundation of their faith when they met in Dallas, Texas, with Neil C. Wilson as the president of the GC. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was removed and replaced with the God of Rome. 45 years ago today, the church continues to worship this false God, TRIUNE. One generation later, as the Bible records, as 40 years, the 2020 General Conference session was postponed in Indianapolis, Indiana, for the reason of a virus pandemic. Very interesting timing. So here we are after 2 postponements, meeting in St. Louis, Missouri, with Ted Wilson as the president, Neil Wilson's literal son, not metaphorical son, real son, biological son. Like father, like son. Mr. Ted N.C. Wilson has professed many times on record a belief in what has become the Trinity God of the General Conference Corporation of the Seventh-day Adventist. They have stepped off the platform of the fundamental principles of 1872 and 1889, and as illustrated in the Old Testament among the children of Israel, had gone off a whoring after a strange god, the TRIUNE. Solidarity with Rome. The 2022 General Conference session in St. Louis is being held on the 6th day of the 6th month, and the event will last 6 days. Is that symbolic? Is that prophetic in some way? 666? Now let's go to the 2025 General Conference session to be held in St. Louis, Missouri again. But before we try to speculate what will happen, will Ted Wilson be retained or voted again as president, or I should say equivalent to the papacy in the Roman Catholic, or will he be replaced? Will he be retained? Will he be replaced? And what will be the precedent? From the archives, Spectrum magazine, a Trinitarian magazine of the Seventh Adventist Church, how Wilson was elected in 2022. This was originally published on June 10, 2022, 3 years ago. This remastered article is exclusively reported the inner dynamics of the nominating committee and how Ted Wilson was elected at the last GC session in Missouri. Now back to Missouri, St. Louis, where the Ark is the landmark of St. Louis, Missouri. And that is where the delegates all over the world will go. How was Ted Wilson elected? Rigged or fair? For the first time during his General Conference presidency, the delegate vote on Ted Wilson's election was counted and publicly displayed at the GC session in 2022. 1,284 Adventist representatives voted for Wilson and 431 against, a split of 74.9 to 25.1%. But the hours earlier vote by the nominating committee, dominated by the union presidents from around the world, was closer. Out of the 268 members, approximately 150 approved Wilson, while 90 opposed. The smaller 60% favorable vote by a very concentrated group of church leaders and laity occurred after an hours long, and at times brutal discussion of Wilson's legacy. In defense of him, one member of the nominating committee stated, "Wilson is the devil you know, not the devil you don't know." 3 members from the nominating committee, speaking on condition of anonymity, as they are not authorized to speak publicly, shared direct quotes and details. Others who were nominated and seriously considered included Pardon K. Mwanza, Vice Chancellor of Rosongo University in Zambia, Arthur A. Steele, GC Vice President, and Ayrton Kohler, GC Secretary. Concerns about centered around his limited international Kohler's centered around his limited international experience beyond the Americas, his English skills, and how his honorary PhD from Peruvian Union University was used in professional settings during his time as president of the South American Division. But these concerns are also highlighted a broader criticism of the nominating committee process. Individuals under consideration are not able to respond to publicly aired questions of fact. Ultimately, this was most irrelevant. Very early in the nominating committee process, before other names were discussed, Catherine L. Prophet, part of the GC at large delegate caucus, jumped up to the mic and made a motion to elect Ted Wilson. It was quickly seconded. Members of the nominating committee recounted that a sense of being ambushed settled the room as this happened before committee protocol had been fully established. Prophet then declined an appeal to change her motion to one for nomination. This left committee members the only option of temporarily postponing or tabling the immediate vote on Wilson, allowing for other names to be nominated and discussed. But when several hours of debate finally subsided, Prophet's motion was untabled. The secret vote was counted without individual votes for each of the other candidates. The 40% opposed to Wilson was treated as a vote for the field. The other three names, Mwanza, Steele, and Couleur, were never individually brought up for a vote on their own terms. Then around 9 p.m., the nominating committee presented their first partial report to the GC session delegate body as the first day of the business session concluded. A former dental hygienist who made millions in the telecom industry, Catherine Prophet, has been a frequent presence at GC Executive Committee meetings. Of late, her name appeared on the list of this session's GC caucus in the 50-member layperson supporting ministries section. A Republican who voted against former President Bill Clinton in 1992, Prophet then served as the national chair of Republicans for Clinton Gore in 1996. After that, she was appointed U.S. Ambassador to the Republic of Malta from 1997 to 2001. Prophet later joined La Sierra University's Board of Trustees, where her son attended. She held the position until 2011, when her fundamentalist attacks on the science faculty led to her removal. In a devotional she gave for the 2015 annual council meetings, Prophet read from a letter of ambassadorial instruction from Clinton. Always keep in mind that for the government and the people of the Republic of Malta, you and your mission symbolize the United States of America and its values. Comparing the U.S. and Malta, she then warned about the temptation that Adventists face as ambassadors for God to not conform to the culture of the world. Although Prophet's actions prevented other nominated names from receiving an individual vote, the fact remains Wilson was elected to serve until 2025 by the majority of the GC session delegates for a global denomination increasingly venturing out into the world, reeling from the COVID-19. Perhaps sticking with a known authority figure felt safer than making a change. Significantly, Wilson's 60% nominating committee vote was the second closest margin out of over 100 votes publicly measured during the session. Building the Adventist house upon the Wilson Foundation might seem safe, but cracks appeared all week on the delegate floor, and so forth and so on. Was it rigged? Was it fair? You can read the article from this Trinitarian Spectrum magazine. My thoughts. There was a person who sent an email and asked me what are my thoughts or views on the coming 2025 General Conference session at St. Louis, Missouri. First and foremost, I have no intention of even going there or even covering it. My desire is to continue to preach the three angels' messages. However, this is of importance because I am a Seventh-day Adventist and I am an ordained minister of the Seventh-day Adventist. And the fact that I return to the original faith, original fundamental principles, does not negate or does not disqualify me from being what we call the original Seventh-day Adventist, although the church might disagree today because I'm not teaching the Trinity doctrine anymore, nor defending it, nor subscribing, nor worshiping to their triune God, because now I understand clearly it is a false teaching. The church has endeavored to cover up our history and alter or change it. Will the election for the next General Conference session would be seen as indeed fair, and the worldwide Seventh-day Adventism will accept this, or will it be business as usual? Will they stay with Wilson? Will they replace Wilson? Regardless of their vote or outcome, which I don't know, individuals have their choices, the delegates have their determination. Regardless, the church continues to propagate idolatry and error through their holding on to the 28 fundamental beliefs, which are not the beliefs of the founders and pioneers and their adherents of the Seventh Adventist Church. So where does it leave us? Whether Wilson will be reelected or replaced, it will not matter. What matters most today is to call out every conscientious and Bible-believing Seventh-day Adventist to examine closely what the GC is doing. I believe, as what Sister Ellen G. White wrote in The Spirit of Prophecy, Volume 4, 1884, the seat of Satan, the seat of Satan, the representative of Satan is the Vatican's voted papacy, voted Pope. I believe that the General Conference, under the influence of Rome's agents, the Jesuits, they are representing as forming to be the daughter churches, one of the daughter churches of Rome. Why? Because of the Trinity doctrine. So therefore, if they voted Wilson or any other Jesuit influenced leader like those that had been mentioned in the article, they are influenced. Why? Because they had been educated in the seminaries or in the higher education. It's a complete Jesuit takeover of our church. Nevertheless, we know that our church is highly infiltrated by the enemy. So whoever becomes the president will be irrelevant in my view. Whether it's Ted Wilson, he wants to propagate his legacy and stay there as the longest serving president of the General Conference Corporation, the SDA, will not matter, or he will be replaced by another Trinitarian loving, worshiping fellow. What is clear is that the church is behaving and manifesting the spirit of Rome in the hierarchy, in their nominating committee, in their conclave, whatever it is. The millions of Seventh-day Adventist Church still honors their process, still believes in the process, but I don't. Whoever is the authority of the General Conference session or the presidency, if he has not committed or announced, "Thus saith the Lord," he is a false leader, a false teacher. To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to these words, it is because there is no light in them. Isaiah 8, chapter 8, verse 20 is very clear. What is happening in the Seventh-day Adventist Church is they have departed so far from the scripture and from the prophecies that they blinded themselves, that they are still assuming that they are the remnant. So what should all of us do? If you desire to go to the General Conference session in Missouri, share the message of truth. Use your voices in the streets, in public discussion to counter the error that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is worshiping and teaching. Invite people to study for themselves that we should not trust mere man or even the GC itself. It is the seat representing the daughters of Rome, the daughters of Babylon. Yes, the church will defend its leaders and its processes, but that doesn't mean they are biblically true or biblically sound. It just means that they are human beings, like the mob during the time of Aaron. Make us our gods. That is exactly what is happening, what is the attitude of the present General Conference Corporation today. So I would suggest for those of you who like to go there to share the literatures, the tracts, the books to others, leaders there who might pick it up and read. But I believe that all of them, most of them, are so entrenched that there is no chance for them to be converted. But still, it is our duty to warn them and to share three angels' messages. Another thing you can do is, if you don't want to go there, continue to share this true message to those people that you can communicate this, and that you can that are willing, that you can able to share this truth. Aside from that, our way is to pray for people to come out of this apostate General Conference Corporation, the Seventh Adventist Church. It's up to you to speculate who will win the election of the presidency of the GC, or you can pray that the church will find leaders to examine, to investigate, and um, to find a way to help the church realize that they are in error. Nevertheless, we are called to warn the people in the Seventh Adventist Church. Idolatry is unacceptable. The Trinity doctrine is indeed idolatry. May God our Father